December 2000.
Sorry about her. Hi guys, welcome back to another video of mine, or welcome to my channel if you are new. If you are new, my name is Elise, this is Pepper, our little pooch, and this is my boyfriend Sean. And on the channel we often talk about buying a new home, getting a mortgage, bills, and all things house orientated. But one thing we haven't really dived into detail about is shared ownership, because Sean used to own a flat that was on shared ownership before. We have spoken, I think, done one video about shared ownership, but we haven't dived into the costs of shared ownership and what that really involves in terms of monthly costings and how that works. So that is what we're going to be talking about today, so stick around if you want to hear more on that.
We get asked, didn't we, in one other video about how much it costs, so I dug back through all my bank statements, everything. So I'm going to talk about how much my flat costs, how much it costs each month, how much it costs to sell it, how much it costs to buy it, and the profit that I made. You know, I moved out of the flat over 2 years ago, 2 years.
Yeah,
2 months ago. So this was a few years back, but it might give people a good indication of how much it cost me. So I've got some notes here for me, because obviously this was a while ago, I haven't got it off the top of my head. So I bought the house December 2016. The value of the house was £250,000. It was a 2-bed, 2-bathroom flat in Hawley in Surrey. I took a 55% share. So what it cost me to set up, my deposit was 10% of my share. So my share was 135,000, so my deposit was 10% of that. So my deposit I put down was 13,750. My solicitor fees were about £2,000 at the time. I did pay a bit of stamp duty, but it was very minimal. It's only based on your share, so it wasn't based on 250. It was based on the 135. So I did pay a little bit, but it was only a few hundred or whatever. I can't find the calculations, I can't remember, but it wasn't much at all. And
with the shared ownership, you pay a mortgage and you pay a rent, and again, that's going to completely depend on the share that you have in the property. So like you said, yours was 55%, yeah. So 135.
So effectively, my mortgage calculation and my worth in it is all based on that 135, and then I pay rent on the rest. So that's a lot of people's questions, isn't it? How much does it actually cost? So what I do is I've got a breakdown of my final month in the flat, what it all cost me. Contents insurance, £8 a month, just covers everything in the flat. You don't need buildings insurance. The buildings cover is obviously for the whole flat. That comes under your maintenance charge. So you don't have to worry about that. So £8 for contents insurance. And then £16 for boiler cover, because the flat I moved into was 10 years old. The boiler was, it was struggling. It always used to break, fall down, and I wasn't prepared mentally to buy a new boiler at the time. So £16 cover. They just come out, they do a yearly inspection of it, let you know how it's running, how long you got left on it. And it just means if something happens in the middle of the night, you get someone out, they're coming out. Yeah. So that moves on to gas and electricity. It's £55 at the time, which is a lot of money, even when you compare it to us. But there was 2 of us living in the flat. It was a surprisingly big flat, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was really spacious.
Small at all.
I was shocked when I first went round. I think I was expecting like a proper man cave, really minging, dark, no light.
Right.
No, but like I feel like this is maybe really sexist, but when men go into like a property, they don't necessarily look at like the natural light, and girls really want that. So I don't know, I was just expecting like a dark, dingy little flat in Hawley. Also, because it was close to London, I wasn't expecting you to have much space, because it just comes at such a cost being that close to London that you were. But it was so spacious. As far out as I did. Yeah, but yeah, you had a really, really good space.
Yeah, the building was designed as a library. So it was built as a library, and then at the last minute they changed it into a flat. Therefore we had these really high ceilings, which were we really loved. For council tax, 111. It is what it is. It's a lot of money. Then the service charge. A lot of people ask the question about this. £126 for the flat.
So really stupid question. So the bills really aren't any different compared to here. You still have to pay all of the bills, regardless of you not owning the full property. And
even though the local authority owns 45%, they don't chip in. No, they don't give you 45% towards the council tax or any of that. Yeah, that's all on you. To rent, on that did I pay £337 rent to the local authority, and that is, that's calculated. I think they do different calculations based on so many different factors. And on top of that was my personal mortgage of £440.
So how much is that in total? 404 and the 300?
£775. All in all, my bills were £1,236. I offset a lot of those by renting out my spare room. The rules are completely different. Basically, what they said to me is I can't sublet or anything, so there could be no contracts, there'd be nothing. But if a friend wants to move in, which I did, one of my best friends moved in with me, paid me a little bit of rent, it just offset it.
Yeah, it just helps out, I think. I mean, obviously you probably have to check your rules on that, but
yeah,
like you said, if there's a friend moving in, they're going to contribute, aren't they, to something?
But they're all different. That's what they said they're happy with. So my local authority was happy with that. Other local authorities might not be. I purposely calculated the rent so it was below the tax threshold of what you have to pay for rent at the time. You know, I can't remember what it was, but as soon as you go over a certain figure, then you start having to pay tax on it as a taxable sort of income. So I kept it below that, just so I didn't want to have to do any self-assessments or anything. But can you imagine the figures? You know, you and your girlfriend, you and your boyfriend, whatever, £250,000. You want to get this beautiful flat, but to do that, you know, first and foremost, you have to be able to get a mortgage with 250.
Yeah.
So you know, straight away, that's quite a high number. But then also, you've got to save 25 grand for the deposit plus solicitor fees, and it's still going to be expensive for the rent anyway. But this way, you know, the fees you need to save up to move in is what, 15 grand cheaper. You know, you can do it on a lower wage, and it's still, because I mean, you speak to everybody watching this. You know, how much is your rent? Yeah, people's rents are £600-700 a month.
Yeah, you're paying that anyway, so it might as well be to something that you own a little bit of. So then you do get equity. Because like I said, when Sean sold that and we moved into this house, you made equity on the property when we moved into the house. Yeah. So I think we previously spoke about the pros and cons of shared ownership, and I think a massive con, like you say, a massive pro, sorry, like you say, is you're living in a property that you never would have been able to afford to move into initially, and you're gonna gain, hopefully, equity on that anyway. That's just naturally how the housing market moves, even, you know, most of the time, obviously depending on the current climate, but you will gain equity on a property once you've bought it and sold it in a few years, especially if you've done a little bit of updating to it and it needed that. So like Sean said, he never would have been able to afford that property if it wasn't for the shared ownership. And I've had so many people comment on our house videos or on the shared ownership videos saying, I just don't know about shared ownership, I feel like I'm going to be owing loads more money at the end, is it really worth it? There are definitely pros and cons to it, and we did speak about all of that, but I think you've really just got to figure out what's most important to you. Is it living in a much crappier area in a property that you really don't love and get that really nice homely feel about, but that's all you can afford? Or do you go, all right, well, shared ownership isn't my ideal situation, but it's something where I can get something much nicer and much bigger. And some people can't, you know, you can't get on the market to start with. And that's what this is for. You know, if there's two of you, you got to save £7.5 grand each. Yeah. And then you pay £600 a month each to live in a beautiful big place. Whereas, if you're going to just do it off the top of the bat, you'd have to wait 2 or 3 years probably for your wage to go up to get that higher mortgage. But then also, you know, you got to save an extra 15 grand. Or whatever. I can go into a bit of detail what it costs to then sell it. Like I said, we spoke about the pros and cons and all that information, you know, all the nitty gritty of it. So ignoring all of that, in order to sell the property, it was £1,000 to the solicitors. That was just my sale point. We obviously then had £1,000 to buy this, etc. But it would cost about £1,000 just to sell my bit, and the estate agent's fees were £2,000. However, in the 2.5 years I was there, the property went from 250,000 to 280. So I sold it at 30 grand increase, of which I got 55%. So my profit was 16,500, and then it cost me about 3 grand to get rid of it. So I made 13,500 in 2 years, and that's not including the money I made on the mortgage, because obviously each month I'm putting into the mortgage, so I was chipping it slightly away. You know, so when we moved into this, when we do the calculations for this, 2.5 years, how long does it take to save 14 grand? Yeah, it's so worth it. And that was on top of my regular savings, because I was still saving. So, you know, from the day I moved into the property to the day I moved out, you know, I had about 25 grand in my pocket, and half of it was just the property, you know, how it went up. To sum up, bought the property for 250,000, 55% share, sold it 280.
my bills each month, £500, I would recommend it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have got this place without it.
You really have to weigh up the pros and cons for your own situation, but I think if it's something that you get a much nicer place for that you never would have been able to get initially, then it's something to definitely at least consider. So we hope you guys enjoyed this little video about shared ownership. Like I said, we did talk about the pros and cons of getting shared ownership, which I will link here. It will also be listed below in the description box if you want to check that out. If there's any other videos that you would like us to talk about or come on here and chat about, then let us know in the comments. We can always sit down and try and come up with a few ideas for a video for you guys if it helps. That is it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you in the next video very, very soon. Bye.